How are you today?
Good. How are you, Dan?
Yes, I'm doing good. Thank you.
Great. Great. You're going to get Josh on here too, right?
Yep. I'm inviting him right now. So, yes. So how's your Monday treating you?
Good. I told you my husband and I are refinancing our house and we had to go sign all these legal documents.
Yeah.
But it was really fun. So
That's good.
So it's good. It's going great.
That's great to know. That's great to know. Perfect. Okay. Yeah, so let's just wait for Josh and
okay.
We will start.
Great. Looks like he just joined. Yeah, I've done a lot of Facebook Lives. I've never done an Instagram Live yet. So I've just Josh is my media manager for Actors in Action and for Lichty Studios, and he's like, "You've got to do it." I'm like, "Okay." Okay. How's your Monday morning going?
It's good. It's been a little bit busy. Hey.
Hi.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, how are you today, Josh?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing good as well. Thank you so much for asking. So, guys, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for accepting. Now, before we start, I have to give you an epic welcome. I mean, if you haven't seen my episodes, you know what I'm talking about. If not, here we go. There you go.
That's great.
This is by far my favorite part. I don't know why, but it's
No, it's fun. I like it. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Now, starting with the whole interview here. Now, let's talk about Actors in Action Conservatory. I mean, where the idea to create this came from?
Yeah. So, well, I've been an actor, since second grade, and I moved from LA to Salt Lake. I grew up here in Utah, and I came back here, and I have this really great acting technique that works really, really well, and I really want to see if this works for other people as well. And so I was encouraged by a bunch of friends and people like that, just teach a class and see where it goes. And so I started October of 2015 here in this building. I'm actually in my studio right now. And I had 6 people in the class. It was a 6-week course, and it just went really, really well. And so from then, it just has snowballed into this whole conservatory. And it was amazing because this technique that I had, that I spent 30 years honing, worked really well too. So I was like, okay, great, this is good. So it just grew from there, kind of.
That's great. And can you explain more about that technique?
Yeah, the Lichty Technique. It's hard to. It's Swiss. It's a Swiss German name. Lichty. It means light in German, actually. We'll get to that later on. Yeah. So my technique, the Lichty Technique, is very succinct. It's basically in my training, I trained at DePaul University at the theater school. I got my BFA there, and then I lived in New York for 10 years, and I lived in LA for 10 years, and I just took classes everywhere, and I worked, and I pretty much just robbed and stole from everybody that I liked. If I liked what they was giving me, I made use of it. So it's very Stanislavski based. It's very much behavior. It's behavior driven. Behavior evokes emotion, and then I pulled in some Meisner. We do Meisner repetition. We do some emotional muscle development, which is based on Meisner's emotional preparation. We do some Uta Hagen's work. We do some David Mamet. I just pulled everything together and saw how it worked. The cool thing about my technique is it works very quickly. I can take an actor and have them in a year to do amazing work, which may sound like a long time, but it took me 4 years of acting conservatory work to get to the basis of my technique. So because I know it so well, I know it works, I'm also a working actor, infuse that in them. And like I said, it's very basic. So, and I'll go into a little bit about this. It's a long answer to this question, a little bit of a long answer. So with behavior in acting and in life, the only thing that we control is our own behavior. I can't control Josh's behavior. I can do with my behavior though to get Josh to maybe respond. So if you lead with behavior, it does a couple of really amazing things. It helps you to make some really strong choices. It helps you to have, I don't want to say control, but you have a goal that you can achieve, that you can see if you're achieving it. Also, it evokes real emotion. So a lot of times won't look real. If you do it this way, it's going to evoke real emotion in yourself and in your partner and in your audience. So that's a big part of it. And if you if I could explain it, I could explain it this way. As human beings, we use the language of behavior to communicate. So example, I go to Mexico, right? And I don't know Spanish. And I want to say thank you to somebody and I don't know how to say gracias. So I'd say thank you. And if they don't know English, they're like, okay, they can maybe guess what I'm saying. But if I were to put it into my behavior of, thank you, they would understand that, right? And it would affect them. So that's what we're doing with my technique, is we're getting to the behavioral level, communicating on a behavioral level. As other human beings that we're working with, it's going to affect them on a cellular level. It's going to affect their gut. It's going to get them ignited, and it's super powerful. So I have this thing called forward motion, which I've kind of coined the phrase, but what it means, taking your energy and putting it in your partner and getting them to do something, because acting is all about getting your partner to do something. I define acting as taking action. You have desire and you take action against an obstacle to get what you want, and that creates conflict. And the conflict is what makes us feel, makes the audience feel, makes the partner feel, and then we're in a moment moving emotionally. So, and Josh knows, Josh is one of my advanced students, and he also, as I said, runs my social media and a bunch of other really cool stuff. So Josh could probably talk a little bit about the Lichty technique as well. Josh, what would you say?
Well, everything that you were saying, it has a lot of beneficial factors for an actor, because there's so much that we can pull from as we take the Lichty technique. And what's really great about it for me is that it becomes very accessible. So whatever you're doing, if you need to get to a point quick, let's say you get a quick audition, last minute, it's like, they've got a spot, can you do it? Can you do a quick audition? It's like, yeah, I can do that. And with this technique, it makes it so accessible that you're like, okay, I can pull from this real quick. I can, look at your script, get all the stuff that you need to. And with this technique, it makes it just fast, and so you can go from like 0 to 100 where you need to be.
Yeah. In fact, in my journey, and I know you'll ask questions about this more, but in my journey, when I got out of acting school at DePaul, I had a huge agent in New York, and I was auditioning for like the biggest things, leads on Broadway, leads in, Shakespeare, and leads in films. I read Shakespeare. I auditioned for Al Pacino's Shakespeare stuff. I read Shakespeare with him, for Robert De Niro stuff, just a ton of. My problem was, although I was very talented, I didn't have a fast way of auditioning, and it would take me forever. And so I really bungled all those auditions. If you gave me 2 weeks to play Medea, I could like knock your socks off. But if you gave me an overnight like commercial thing, I'd be like, ah. And so that's what I've done. You have to train to get there. Definitely. It's not like I can teach you to do this in 6 weeks, but like Josh is saying, you will have all this training and all this background to be able to just do it for them quickly. And then also when you're on set, they're like, can you try it a little more, like you'll just be able to ease the direction. So it's very succinct, and it goes really deep too. Wouldn't you say, Josh? Like it's super fast.
I was up kind of late last night doing a shoot. I was invited to help out directing, because it was an actor's project and they needed a second pair of eyes. And what was great is, because of the Lichty technique, I could help me direct better too. So it wasn't just acting, but I was able to like know how to work with an actor, because I'm also an actor. But because of the Lichty technique, I could know how to guide someone through where they need to be for a certain scene. And we were doing a pretty heavy scene, and I was able to help her, and she killed it. It was a really good scene. I was watching from the camera, and I was like, that is so good. Oh, and then she watched it, and she's like, oh, wow, that was really good. And so it made us all feel good. But it's just a great technique.
Yeah, it's interesting you talk about directing too, because I do a lot of directing. I write a lot and film a lot, and I find that, and it was so funny with this because this was just my technique that worked really well. And then I started sharing with actors, and then I started putting into like my directing, and I was like, oh my gosh, this works amazingly. Because you work behaviorally. Like if I'm working with Josh and I'm like, Josh, I want you more to like seduce me on this than to convince me. And I understand that. And I know so many times as actors we're like, what is the director talking about? I want you to be sexier. I want you to, whatever. It's like, that doesn't translate to an actor. But if you like say, I want you to seduce her, you're like, oh, because we all know how to do behavior like that. Or I want you to affirm her, or I want you to like beg her. You're going to get so much more out of actors as a director doing that, having those choices and using those words, because it's so about words. As we're acting, as we're directing, as we're writing, it's about words, but we're also trying to get under the words to the behavior, those moments, those rich, deep moments. So yeah, it's really handy. And it works for writing too, which is another story. When
you're specific, it doesn't matter what language you're speaking or whatever, but you'll be able to understand because it's so clear and specific of the behavior or whatever you're doing, and you can clearly understand.
Yeah, and what we want actors and when we go to film, when we go to theater, we want to be that. We want to be included like on a behavioral, like very instinctive, visceral level. That's what that happens. I remember when I was in acting school in Chicago, a Russian from Moscow, and I think they were with the Moscow studio, and they did Hamlet. And I know Hamlet pretty well, but I was watching it, and I understood pretty much everything they were saying because of their behavior. And I was like, yeah, it was really, really cool. So
that's great. And what are some of the challenges that actors might have when they're starting to learn that technique, and how you will usually work with them in order for them to understand or to start to practice more that technique?
Yeah, that's pretty specific. I think one of my biggest challenges actors that come into my school is a lot of actors think acting is something that it isn't. So it's like re-educating them what acting is. I think a lot of actors think that acting is performing. It's like, here I am, and I'm going to paint the words, and I'm going to blah, 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 blah. It's not acting. Acting is doing. Acting is taking action to get what you want. So that's one thing I have to like strip away a little bit with actors. But basically what I do, I know that's going to happen. And so I'm going to like pull that away. But basically we just start very simply. We start with doing Meisner's repetition. You have eyebrows, I have eyebrows, you have eyebrows, just getting really connected. So I teach them to be honest in the moment and connect with their partner on a very simple level. And then we start right in to verb work, which is a very Stanislavski thing. So verbs are behaviors, like to tickle, to admire, to their behaviors. There are little handholds we have for behavior. So we start right off the bat with that, with just doing very simple verbs. We have this game, and maybe Josh and I can demonstrate it. Josh, you want to demonstrate the verb game?
We could.
It'd be really fun. So I have this game that we play, and it's called the Verb Game. And basically what you do is you take a verb, very simple, like to fix. And I'm going to fix Josh. And my intention is to make him feel fixed. So it's very simple. And there's three things I want to do. I take the energy, like my intention, and I pretend like, or I think of it as a string of energy coming from my head to him, and it's tapped into him, always into him, whether I'm looking at him or not. It's all about my partner. So that's the first thing I do. My intention's on him. The second thing I do is I play the verb physically, and I let my emotions be involved. I don't just like, fix him like this. I actually invest emotionally. And then the third thing I do is I check to see if he feels fixed or if I've moved him. And if I haven't, I need to change my tactics. So it's very, very simple. And then we just say a line of text. We usually start with to be or not to be. That is a question. So it'll look like, so if I'm doing to fix, the caller would say to fix. I'd say to fix. And then I'd say to be or not to be. That is the question. Okay, so you could probably feel my energy coming through the screen, right? That's what we call forward motion. And it probably made you feel something, Dan, too, right? I'm doing it right. move the body. And Josh, did you feel fixed?
Yeah.
Something like that. Because you can't actually make them feel exactly what you want them to, but you can move them emotionally. So then Josh, what do you do? What do you want to do to lead? Why don't you lead me?
To lead, okay. Yeah.
Now,
So
and another thing, as the person having the verb played to, you're not going to help them out. You're not going to go like, he's going to go to lead. And I'm going to go, okay, I'm going to allow his energy to affect me. It's like you're a piece of seaweed in the ocean. If a current goes by, then you move. If it doesn't, you don't do anything. So we're not going to fake it. Okay, so go ahead and lead me, Josh.
Okay. To be or not be. That's the question.
So cool.
You can feel that palpable energy, right? And
Yeah.
it's funny because before pre-pandemic, I was teaching just in my studio here, and then we had to take everything online, and I was like, this isn't going to work. Because my classes are pretty complicated. They're layered out, and there's a bunch of stuff in it. I was like, this is not going to work, and is it going to translate? But it translates beautifully. It's amazing, especially like forward motion. This energy, the camera sucks it up, and so you can see, and it's effective, and it feels. So we start with the verb game pretty big. You want to get pretty big at first. You really want to lead them or fix them or admire them or whatever. You do it big so you can learn how to do it, and then eventually learn to do it very, very subtly. And so that's one thing I do. We just dive right in with my people that start at the beginning level, and everybody has to start at the beginning level. I don't care if you're like,
Yeah, of course.
I don't care if Tilda Swinton came to me, which is my favorite actor. You probably move up really quick, but the reason I do that is because I want to have everybody have the same language, and I want to make sure that we get the structure of playing our verbs, of behaving, of getting the behavior going, and understanding that, and get rid of any bad habits that might be there, chip those away, and then we move forward. So the class itself is very, like I said, it's more like a ballet class or like a yoga class than a regular scene study class. It's a conservatory class, but basically. So like we have layers. We start with a vocal and physical warm-up. We do effort shape, which is movement. We do space object work. We layer. If you look at my website, it's all on there. So, and then at the end, we do a little scene study, and we take all that stuff and put it in there. Like we do an audition every week. So you get to practice auditioning. You can send in a self-tape if you want, and get immediate feedback with your auditions, which we never get immediate feedback. So it's really, really cool to do that. And I've done some casting, and so it's just great to have that feedback, and people just grow. It's crazy. So that's the biggest thing, is actors think that acting is something that it isn't, and then helping them understand what it is and teaching them to do that. I think that's probably the biggest thing about my class, is I teach people how to act. We don't just come in and do a scene study and I'm like, oh, that was good, try it this way. Okay, you pass that off, do it next week. I'm like, no. You're taking action. You're using your voice, you're using your body. So it's very different than your typical acting class.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's very interesting. No, that's really cool. I mean, I would definitely love to. I mean, I would definitely love to start to check more into it. Like eventually, of course, once the whole pandemic is over and everything.
You can audit the first class free. They're 3.5 hours long, so they're a long class. It takes
Yeah, of course.
But most classes that do this in-depth work are that long. But yeah, you're welcome. In fact, anybody watching this, if you want to audit a class, just message me, and totally. So yeah, it's fun. And I coach individually too. I'll have people that can't take the classes, and I'll coach them. It does better if you take the class, because it's the 3.5 hours. My steroid one is I do this thing called Class Plus, and you get class plus you get a 30-minute session with me each week. And that one, the people that do that, they just they get really good really fast. Another thing that I love about the technique is that it's very tangible, and it's something you can work on.
Yeah.
It's like learning to play the piano. If you go and practice your scales, you're going to get better and better and better. It's the same. That's what I love about it, is I give you little things to work on and stuff, and if you do them, right, Josh?
Yeah, Because for me, it's I feel like it's working that muscle, because even like with piano players, they have to have that feeling of, where their hands are moving and have it, because if you're starting out just playing the piano for the first time, you have to work your hands, they have to be comfortable moving, especially same thing with like guitar and stuff. But it's very much a muscle memory kind of thing. But the more that you do it, the more that you practice, it's a muscle that you can easily access to and use it for whatever you need to use it for.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I like to say, like, each time my students do a scene, it's like you're investing in Bitcoin. It's just each time it's going to help the next scene. It's going to help the next scene because you're practicing this technique. And I think what's also about my school is that I guarantee that you will get like a fail-safe process, which I can teach you like how to do this, which is like that you really will be able to do this no matter what. It takes time to get there, but that's what I teach you. It's like you're not just going to go into the audition room and do the spaghetti syndrome thing, throw spaghetti against the wall and hope it sticks. You're like got this solid process that works, and I'm really proud of that because I think so many actors struggle with that. I mean, I know I did, years ago, and now it just works. And also I encourage actors, I give them my process and I encourage them to find their way with it. But I'm like, this is what works, and then let's fight, because everybody's different, right?
Yeah, of
but
course.
It's really fun because I love to see the confidence grow in my actors, because they're just like, I don't know, and then boom, like Josh. I mean, Josh, you do such great auditions. You do such great. It's really fun, and we've worked hard. Josh and I have worked. He's been really dedicated. So
that's awesome, and I think the fact that you are pretty much taking them step by step, that is also very important, right? Because I think sometimes they will pretty much push you and not taking you step by step, and then you will be missing like a lot of things that might help you in the future. So the fact that that for you, that your process it's to taking them step by step, teaching them techniques and everything, it is really awesome, and at the same time it builds confidence to the actor itself.
Yeah, well, I'm very strong. Like, I won't let my actors go from beginning to intermediate until I feel like really got the basic of playing forward motion, of being in, being able to be honest in the moment, just the basic fundamentals. Like, I used to teach everything all at once, and I have stronger actors now that I do it in layers, and I wait till they're ready. And people will be like, "Can I move up?" You're not quite ready. So, and then when they do, these floodgates open, and it's really fun because I build this big foundation, and then the castle appears, and it's awesome.
Yeah, I bet that is also like an amazing feeling, right? I mean, when they start, they will be like under your wing, and then they will fly one day.
Yeah.
Which is what I want. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, and what's really great, because I've talked to a lot of like earlier actors and stuff, and one of the hardest things is like coming up with what you need to do, especially if you're like really brand new to all this acting stuff. But having that process and finding out what that is for them as an individual, because everyone's different, but being able to figure out, this is my process, this is what works for me, and experimenting, and Lichty Technique gives you that option of like experimenting and kind of going with the flow, finding out what works for you, and then you can use that to continue to go get more work. You've got the training, the background, and you can experiment a little based on whatever you're doing. But it gives you that, like, it's like you've got this river of acting, and the Lichty Technique is the canoe or the kayak, and you're able to go with the flow because you've got the tools and the things you need to flow with it.
Yeah. Putting it, Josh. Yeah. It's interesting, and ultimately the result is like super instinctive for an actor, because a lot of people will be like, technique, I don't want technique's going to bog me down. But the truth is, this is a very succinct, simple, deep technique, and it takes you to the point where you're just free and you're impulsive. It's really fun. So I mean, that's what we want, but you have the confidence that you know what you're doing, you know how you're getting there, and it makes it really fun, I think. Yeah,
absolutely. Now, tell me about the acting classes. I mean, what can we expect to get when we start the training?
Right. Okay, so like I said, the acting classes are 3.5 hours long. Right now I'm teaching a Tuesday morning and a Saturday morning, 10 a.m. MST time. So like I said, we start off with a voice and a vocal warm-up. And I'm actually getting trained right now in the LESAC voice and body system. I don't know if you guys know that, but it's something I did in acting school years and years ago, and then they stopped it after my second year. And I'm going back to it. It's just a really great training for voice, for movement, and Josh knows we just started doing that. So we do this warm-up, and we work on our speech and our voice and our speech, because, you know, it's hugely important. Movement and voice. Acting is all about, it's 100% movement, it's 100% voice, it's 100% instinct, right? So we do that. Then we work with space objects. And this is really fun. So like, we'll take a ball. I'll show you right now. So I'll take a ball and I'm going to throw it to Josh. I'm going to go, I'm going to follow it, and he's going to catch it, and he's going to throw it back to me. And I'm going to create that. It may seem really silly and simple, but actually what we're doing with space object work is we're doing a ton of things. We're working on what I call referencing, which is creating the environment. So like when you're auditioning, you want to create that environment, right? Or you want to be like, oh, hi, Joe. And then somebody goes to the window. Oh, how can you, Joe? Can you go away? Don't slam the door in my face. Well, okay. Well, Joe, you know, we want to create that, right? The more we can do that, the more the casting and directors and everybody can see, oh, wow, that was amazing. Not only were they a good actor, but they really put me on that set. That was incredible. So we're doing that. We're also doing sense memory work. What does it feel like to hold the ball? What is it, you know, to get our you know, using our senses. We're learning to use our heads and our eye lines, that kind of stuff. Because like, if you saw it, when I threw the ball, I like watched it, right? If I create this ball with my movement, you're going to see it. Okay. So it's the same thing if I'm in an audition, or even if I'm set, or if I'm working at green screen stuff. This is green screen. And I've worked with actors that like, they get something that wasn't there. And they can't do it. I think it's actually a really advanced skill to be able to do that. To, you know, like when they're doing Lord of the Rings or Daenerys, Game of Thrones, those dragons are not real. I hate to tell you, I know it's sad. And like, you know, she had to create those, and that's hard. That's advanced stuff. So we do that, a little bit of that. Then we go into effort shape. Effort shape is a study of movement, and it's I use it as basis for character work. So in my beginning classes, we don't do any character work. We just learn to act from ourselves, which is first and foremost, because you can do the most amazing, you know, Richard III and lisp and have a hunchback and all that kind of stuff. But if it's not real, we won't care, right? But if it's real and then you do the stuff, it's amazing. So effort shape is you use different movements like flick or press or ring or float. And we learn to get those in our bodies. We learn to let them infiltrate to our characters, into our scenes. We use that kind of stuff. So it's really fun to do that. And then the next thing that we do is called emotional muscle development, which is based on Meisner's emotional preparation. And in that, what we're doing is we're taking an emotion at the very basic level, like just have an emotion wheel. We pick one, happy. Okay, and then we lay down and get relaxed. And you listen to a recording, and you're going to explore that emotion, see where it takes you in your body. You go on a journey with it. What we're learning is to call up these emotions and to learn how to feel. A lot of actors can't feel. A lot of people can't, right? We're told to shut down and not feel and press. And as an actor, we have to reverse all that and be very accessible to our emotions. So we do that. Then after that, we do Meisner's repetition. And I take it to a really deep level, but we just start out very simple. You have eyebrows, being honest in the moment. The next thing that we do is verbs, the verb game, which is so much fun. I think that's the most fun part of the class, don't you think, Josh?
Yeah, well, and what's great about it, because acting should always be fun. It should always feel like you're having a good time, because we are playing and we are creating, you know, imaginary, you know, real things in imaginary circumstances. But it's having fun and, you know, experimenting with our emotions and creating something or showing something forward that, you know, impacts people and stuff. So yeah, the verb game is one of the funnest things, and I feel like actors, it's a good game for actors to like train with, if that makes sense. Like an exercise of, oh, I need to, you know, maybe it's in between auditions, I need to, you know, exercise that muscle of things, and then you do the verb game, and it's a game of that can train you and give you, you know, strengthen your muscle and make that stronger in between.
Yeah, I think that's a lot. My class, we drill. It's like soccer practice. You drill, right? It's like you learn these drills, you have skills, you have things to do. So yeah, in the verb game, ultimately, like in our advanced level, it becomes sort of an improv. And we've actually had a lot of scripts and a lot of fun ideas come. It's really, really fun. So then back to the class. Then we take a little break, and then we back and you do your audition. So I have, like, we call it a one-line. I pull scripts from whatever's currently being cast in New York and LA. So we do scripts, and I pull that script, and usually it's just a short audition, a couple of lines. And what we're doing with that is we're really working on our referencing, we're working on creating things, our acting, we're like pulling everything together, right? And having a really strong audition. So do it short so we don't spend a ton of time, but yet you get to practice that auditioning. And I would say that alone really helps my actors. Because first of all, it makes them confident with auditioning, because you're auditioning every week, no matter what. You're getting direct feedback, and you're also getting instruction. Like, okay, because I talk about your referencing, I didn't really see that you created that. Your eye lines are kind of all over the place. You need really strong eye lines. We just have this secret weapon called secondary action, which is super, super cool. It's very simple, but it's basically when you're doing an audition, this is a huge tip for everybody, guys. Do a little something that you would normally do in life, like, see how I just fixed my hair, or your shirt, or something, like just a little, like one little secondary action thing there of maybe like playing with your earring or just something. Secondary action is defined as, like, your primary action is I'm sitting at my computer paying my bills. My secondary action would be I look out the window and see the kids playing outside, or I tuck my hair, or I wipe my nose, or something like that. It's just a little something that makes it very real. So anyway, so the auditions are really great for that, and people get super, super good at them. Then after that, we do script analysis. So we take the scene that I've pulled from either it's a feature film or a TV show or a pilot, movie of the week, whatever. We pull that and we break it down. So we look at, this is very Stanislavski. What do I want? What am I? And then we break it down into beats. Usually there's 3 to 4 beats per scene. And then we pick a verb for each beat for each character. So we do very specific verbs, and I teach people how to do it. And I think that's probably the hardest thing to teach and the hardest thing to learn, especially finding the beats. Wouldn't you say, Josh? That's
yeah, and especially if, like, you know, if wherever level of actor you are, you know, you're interpreting somebody's writing, you know, and you have to think, okay, well, how does this impact me, you know, and going through it and finding out how you fit into it all and finding the relationship. Yeah, that is one of the hardest things as an actor. But yeah, well, what we do in class with the Lichty Technique and the script analysis, you take it step by step, because it can be very intimidating with having a script, but going, okay, well, what do we do first, and then what's next, and then kind of just slowly get there to then feel like, oh yeah, okay, I can look at a script, know where I fit in, know where I need to do, you know, where my changes are, how my opinions and all that kind of stuff with however you feel in the scene. So yeah, it's good. It's a good way of, I mean, that could be its own class even there, just doing the script analysis too. Yeah,
well, and the thing is with breaking down the script and finding beats, you know, they would talk about that in acting school, but I wish I would have had my technique taught to me in acting school, because I would have been so much more prepared in New York, and I would have been so much better. But it's okay. And that's another reason, like, I really try to help actors and put them under my wing and help them, you know, get out there. But with beats, like, it probably took me 10 years outside of, you know, after I graduated in New York and LA to really figure out how to break down a script and find those beats. So I tell people, I'm your Sherpa. I'm going to take you up Mount Everest. I'm here for you. I'm going to tell you where I think the beats are. And so you can get a really strong idea of that, and you can learn to find the beats, because, you know, a beat happens when there's a transition, when there's a new tactic, when usually it's when a beat is resolved, there's going to be a new beat, or there is an interruption, or it goes deeper. So those are usually how you can kind of tell. And it just takes a little while to figure that out. So after we're done with that, breaking down the script, then we take the script that we worked on last week and we work on that, we perform it. So people have had a whole week to get off book, to work on their verbs, to work on whatever level they're on. If they're in the intermediate, then they work on entity work, which is a personalization stuff, which is super cool, I think. It's really quick, powerful way to do personalization. And it's something that evolved. all of my stuff evolves, I have to say, but this evolved, and it's really, really cool. Anyway, so they work on that, and then they come to class. Then we do a scene in class. So I pair them up, and everybody does the same scene, and then we work on, who, like, just how are the verbs. We do something called the big trick, which is letting go of everything. So we try that and just see where your process is, and then we usually do an exercise, verb work or a trigger word or attention exercise or whatever, and then we do it again. So they get a chance to put everything they learned in class into that scene and progress with it, and and then they move along really quickly. So I mean, that's class. That's what we do for class. Intermediate class, like I said, we go deeper with personalization work. Advanced class, by the time you get to advanced class, like right now we're doing the Shakespeare scene from 12th Night, Olivia and Viola scene. And like everybody does the same scene, divide up into pairs. But like if one person isn't there that day that's supposed to play Viola and your partner's there, another person will be there to play with you. So, and with the advanced class, we get really deep with it. We were voice work into it and stuff. We do something called deep verbs, which I will not let anybody do till they get to advanced class, because it's hard to learn how to play verbs specifically and you need to be able to do them specifically just on a beat, and then you can get into the deeper stuff. So and then stuff comes from our stuff. We've had showcases, you guys have had a lot of films you guys have made, short films and stuff.
Yeah.
You guys have a lot of stuff, and I have things that I've written that have been inspired by my students, and so that's how it goes.
How cool is that?
Thank you.
That's really cool. And we can also see on the website that you also offer voiceover training. So can you tell me like a little about the training process for that one?
Yeah, I can, and I'll have Josh speak to that quite a bit, because he's facilitated a lot of those classes. So my technique, Lichty Technique, translates brilliantly into voiceover work, as you can imagine, because first of all, we have like the voice training, and then also if you're be really specific about your verbs and about your behavior, it's going to directly come through your voice. So I have this wonderful woman named Linda Barry. She is our voiceover instructor, and she has 30 years of experience in voiceover. She was an agent in LA for voiceover for a long time. Then she moved to Salt Lake, and she and a woman named Vicki Panic founded Talent Management Group, which is one of the top agencies here in Salt Lake. So she founded that. She was there about 15 years, and then she just decided to go do voiceover coaching herself. So she lives in Las Vegas right now, but Linda will do classes like right now, September 11th, our next Essentials of Voiceover, a 6-week course, I think 2.5 hours long. So basically she just takes it over from there with the voice work, but with the voiceover stuff. And hers is very much, she doesn't really teach techniques per se like I do, but she'll take the technique and she will hone it into like, they will work on scripts. She'll help, like, she's got a great ear for that. She stays very in touch and in tune with what's going on right now currently in LA and New York with voiceover. So she'll talk about the business. She'll talk about getting your reel together, your demo together. She'll talk about, how to get auditions. We talk forever and, forever about getting your own home studio, because that's so important now, right? You have to have a home studio. So that's basically what she does with that. And then we just recently in May, we had Andy Roth in. He's a voiceover casting director in New York, and he's fabulous. So he came in and for part of the workshop and talked about stuff. So we keep really current with that. And we also have a demystifying voiceover September 11th in the afternoon. And that's for people that are like, do I want to do voiceover? I don't know. What's it about? It's like the basics of voiceover. So, I bring Linda in because she is an expert on it. I'm not an expert on voiceover. I'm an expert on training actors, but not voiceover. So that's been too. And Josh has facilitated a lot of our classes. So Josh, you can probably even speak more to it.
Yeah. So one of the great things that she does do, Linda Behrman, in her Essentials class, she works with you, works through all the different kind of stuff, but also she also was something that I would, because I also am very interested in voiceover and that kind of stuff. But one of the things she does is figures out your voice print, because everyone's got, just like a fingerprint, it's unique. it's got it. You are identified by your fingerprint. Same thing with your voice. Everyone's got a unique voice, and there's a way of knowing what that voice print is, and that'll help you when you know how your voice is and what. Because she gives like adjectives to your voice. That way you can decide, okay, so this is my voice. This is how it's, kind of comes across. I'm like, it's either like friendly or maybe it's gravelly. It's got texture, that kind of thing. Then that'll help you just like figure out the best auditions to find, and those will be the jobs that you'll definitely get because you've got the perfect voice for it. Like what's his name? Like Sam Elliott. He does a lot of the Dodge commercials. His voice is so distinct, and if you ever driven a Dodge, so his voice. It's gravelly, it's distinct, but it's rough, just like like those trucks that drive across. So but it'll help you figure out those kind of auditions and those things that you want to find, and then from that too, she helps you with like finding. Because with anything you're doing, you got to be passionate about it, because you can hear that in your voice when you're excited. So she kind of takes you on a journey with your voice, with those essentials, because that your voice is essential to voiceover. And then we learn a couple of different techniques and things like that. The essentials class is very great. And so we're doing this one for the fall or /summer. On the 11th, and then there'll be another one that comes up after that, 6 weeks of another one. But I highly recommend it. It's very well informed with all the information you need.
Yeah, those are online, so anybody, anywhere.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Now, if you could describe Actors in Action Conservatory with one word, which one you will choose?
Well, for the technique, it would be effective.
There you go.
Effective. Yes.
I like that.
Yeah.
Now, from both of your acting careers, which performances were the ones that you both learned more lessons from?
Josh, you want to take that one first?
Yeah. I see. I probably have like two, but the one because I booked something in January, and it was something really simple, but I learned a lot just because the director was really nice working with him, and I liked his example of how he had his stuff run, and I really liked how he worked with me, and that was something that I like took with me to then when it was my turn to direct, to make sure I kind of set that same kind of tone. So I learned a lot from that set. It was like early of this year. And then with that, the shoot I was doing last night, I learned a lot too, because that was kind of my first time directing a little bit, but it was great, and because I was able to help an actress get to where she needed to go and to tell a great story, that felt really great, and that's really why we act is to tell a great story, and so that was very fulfilling for me yesterday. So I'm kind of still on that cloud 9 from that, because I thought that was so great.
That's cool.
Cool. For me, I wouldn't say there's like one role that I've learned a ton from. I've learned so much from so many different things, and people will ask me, what's your favorite role? And I'm like, I don't know. I love them all. But I think to answer that, I think early on working on film, I learned so much about framing, about sharing your face with the camera, which was huge. And I think that's really important. And it's really hard to teach actors to do that, which is another reason I love teaching online. I do have a hybrid class, like in person and online, the advanced classes right now. But if you can understand framing, if you can understand, like, I always think of the camera as the sun, and you want the sunshine on you. So like, I remember there was I did like this NYU short when I was like starting out and stuff. And I was like the whole time this, talking, and you couldn't see my face. So annoying. Like, oh my gosh. I was like, so you want to think of the camera as the sun. You want to like cross the sun if you can. You want to like put your eye lines at 2 and 10. You want to open. So I think that was really, really big, and just like the camera presence and being open to that. And then I've learned so much from so many things. I think in acting school, I played Phaedra, which is this huge role. It's like the Hamlet for women. I don't know if you guys know it. Racine wrote it, and it was really interesting. I learned with that, when the way it was done, it was very internal, and like it didn't go over that well because there were no externals of like letting out what I was doing. And I was crying, and it's a very emotional, like Greek tragedy. And it was really cool. And it was really fun to do. But I think I learned that like you really have to have that balance of being connected emotionally and getting out your actions and your verbs to people and connecting, or the audience isn't going to feel anything. They're going to feel left out and they're going to hate you. And so I learned a lot from that one. I think also I've learned, I've just learned, I played Ophelia. I learned a lot from that. Like Lady M, that was incredible. Though from those, I probably learned that even those are smaller roles, like line wise, they're so deep emotionally that you have to make sure you're working on your mental health while you do those kind of things, because you can get like kind of warped and so that was important. I think also one of my favorite roles has been this role that I did for this project I'm doing called Aesop. It's Selena. She's a sorceress and a priestess, and I shaved my head for it and the whole thing. And that was I don't know if it was the role that was so incredible. She's such a fun, mean, awful, but who knows if she's mean, awful person. But I certainly learned a ton working on that project because I was directing, writing, producing, and acting in it. And that was crazy. In fact, I just did a shoot Saturday night, and all I had to do was act. And it was so weird. It was like running the whole set. And it was so refreshing. It was so nice. So yeah.
That's so awesome. And what do you think it's important for young actors to know?
I think it's for them to know what acting is and what it is. I also think it's important to know that it takes training. I think acting is really the only art that a lot of people are like, oh, that looks so easy, I can do it. Like you would never do that if you went to a concert pianist and saw them play. You'd never be like, oh, that looks so easy, I can get up and do that. You would never do that to, a ballet dancer watching Mr. Copeland. You wouldn't be like, oh, I can do that, right? It takes training. But the thing with acting is, I'm sorry to tell you, I know everybody's like, I just want to be instinctive, which is great. You can get there, but you have to train. It's an art, it's a skill. So knowing that. I think also knowing how passionate you are about it. I think that's really the first thing. Like, how much do you want to act? Like, I'll ask my actors, how much, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you want to act? And it's great when they're like 17, because I'm like, good, they really want to act, It's like, that's what it takes, that passion. Like with me, I've been acting since 2nd grade, and I just always wanted to act, and I have such a passion, and my parents weren't terribly supportive of it. And so as a kid, I would try to like not do it, but I always would end up in a play, and I just couldn't not act. I just had to do it. And so I think the passion, like, get honest with yourself. If you want to act, you probably have a ton of passion to do it. And I think lean into that passion, feed that passion, honor that passion. That's the thing that's going to get you to move forward.
That's amazing. And what is like both your approach like towards acting?
What is go ahead, Josh. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because I'll tie in the other question in this question too. But because for me, I feel like one of the hardest things for actors, and it is something I struggle with, and I'm sure everyone does, is when you do the audition and it's no, or you don't get it, taking that word of rejection out of your vocabulary is important, and to understand that even though it's a no, it just means not right now. Like, because I've been getting a lot of Hallmark auditions. I have done a lot of those, and they keep calling me back. So there's something that's there that they like, and then it's just changing your perspective, knowing like, oh yeah, so they keep calling me back. That's great. Maybe I haven't gotten the role of what they're trying to do, but they obviously they like me somehow because they keep calling me back for those Hallmark movies, and which is great, and that's just something that's really hard to remember is to look at it a different way. Like, okay, they must like me, they keep calling me back. And to answer the other question, about what acting is, because acting for me is being able to have fun and play and bring that like almost that childlike wonder of what you're doing and having a good time and be able to relax and be free with your emotions, because like we've said earlier in this interview is it's we're all taught as we grow up to just keep things locked in. Oh, like you can't do this and that, but being able to act, you're like 100% open and out, and you're very vulnerable, which is scary. But as you do it more, you're like, oh yeah, I can just go with, live life and show that to people, which I think is just so much fun. And then you get to tell a story as part of just being open and free and having a good time and enjoying what you're doing. And I think that's super great.
Yeah, absolutely. Interesting.
Yeah. Well, my approach is my technique. But I'll have to say that it's extremely instinctive now at this point, because I've been doing it so long. And so the biggest thing to me about acting, and I really want to impress to people listening, is acting is about desire. Acting is about wanting. The whole structure of drama, as I said, meaning the literary form, how it's written, is a character wants something. There's an obstacle in the way. The action to get it, it creates conflict. That is what, very simple. Like an essay is a different form. Poetry is a different form. Novels are different forms. Novels do have conflict in them often, but if it doesn't have conflict, it's not drama. And so starting from your desire, the desire of the character, what do you want? What do I want? The film I worked on Saturday, my son's girlfriend in it was going to have an abortion, and I didn't want that. I wanted her to have the baby. So that's what I wanted. I wanted to protect my son, and I was fighting for that. And I wanted our family to be cohesive. And so going from that spine, I can do anything with that. So I'm like, this is what I want. And when I approach a scene, I'm like, what do I want? I want to do that. I want this. I want my son to feel loved and protected from this woman who's going to do something that he doesn't want her to do, And so fighting for that, and that informs all of my choices, and it helps me, connect with him and see him fight and have a relationship with him. But it's all from desire, and action on that desire. That's it. It's very simple. Acting is very simple. Simple, but not easy to learn. But once you learn it, it's
of course,
so simple.
Yeah, of course. And I think it's important, right, to have like this connection, because for me that I'm not I'm not an actor at all, but whenever I will watch a movie or I will go to a play here and there, like the thing that I like the most, or the thing that I would pay attention to is like whenever there's like a connection going on, because then once there's a connection, especially like on theater, right? Like whenever there is a connection with the whole audience, you pretty much have it under control now,
Yeah.
And well, for me, I would say that when I watch a movie, instead, what I want is for the characters, if there is something that I can relate, to be something that you can feel like, okay. So, and I think like this, that you can tell sometimes whenever you will watch a movie or in theater, right? Whenever you will have like this, like whenever there will be like this scene, and you will have like this, you will feel like this. I mean, I don't know how to explain it, but like this instant connection you're having, but that's because the way that the actor or the actress is doing it,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's, as human beings, we crave that. We need to see that. That's why we need art. We need those moments. We need to experience them either ourselves or watch other people and vicariously experience. Yeah. And I also wanted to go back to like the conflict thing. The reason that acting is so simple, it's actually modeled after human behavior and life. So the difference between drama and life is that drama always has conflict. Life sometimes has conflict, and sometimes it doesn't. And what we're trying to do in acting is we're trying to behave like real human beings in a situation. It's just an imaginary situation, right? So all we're doing is we're taking how we would behave like in conflict, and we're putting it in an imaginary circumstance. So this is how human beings really behave.
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to approach. That's what we're trying to get the actor to do. Instead of performing, painting out, because that's not human behavior. I don't know what that is, but it's performing. It's not behaving. It's not. So it just comes directly from life in conflict, and it's just put into a form. And for, like I said, for some reason, it's really hard for actors to be able to do that in an imaginary circumstance. That's what takes training, and then you get to that point. But it's human behavior. Everything I teach is human behavior. Everything. It's Stanislavski. He just observed behavior. If you look at some really great actors, like I love Jennifer Lawrence. I think she's such a great actor. I really love her. And like, she's never been trained. But if you read her, if you read some of her interviews, like, I've never been trained, but what I do is I watch behavior. And if you watch her, she's very behaviorally motivated. She may not understand that she's doing that because she's so instinctive, but it's all about her behavior, and then her real emotions get evoked. And it's just, she has the ability to do that in an imaginary circumstance beautifully, and that's what we're really trying to do.
Awesome. You know, like there's like so many things, and I discovered that with this whole podcast channel that I have, that interviewing actors, like there's so many things behind that people who don't know anything about acting don't know at all. And once you pretty much got like then you started to like understand and to see how a lot of the process is going, then it makes a lot of sense why a movie, or why like the whole audition process, whatever, it will take years even, you know, because it's a whole process here. Or even with actors too, it's just amazing. that's what I would say. I mean, it's really amazing, like how all of these things can help you, you know, in your acting career. Because personally for me, and I think that's a lot of people too, would say that acting is just pretending to be somebody else and that's it. But now, like this whole, like now I can tell that there is million of other stuff behind that we of course don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I love that you're saying that, because I believe in, like, I think it's good to be a well-rounded actor and knowing how everything works, because whatever you're doing, if it's theater or film, there's so many, you know, we just see the one, you know, the performance, but there's so many other things going on. Yeah. Like light, there's light, there's tons of people that run the lights, there's tons of people that run, you know, the sets and different things like that. But to think about when you're watching something, that it's what you see on screen, and then there's like just all this like village, this city that's also operating and everything like that too, which is just great to think about, like that so many people put in their time and their passion and their love for what they're doing into something that's just great to watch and enjoy and to connect with, like you said, Dan. And because that's what I mean, one of the things I love is going to the movies, because I'm a big movie guy, and be able to go to the movie, sit down and have that feeling of excitement. And you know, when you like going to see Jurassic Park for the first time, you know, it's crazy, it's just awesome. But be able to be a part of that and give that to other people, it's like that's the dream. It's just so cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Like for example, one of the movies that personally, that is one of my favorites, but it also hit me like a lot, was Marley and Me.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, like with that movie, so isn't the story, I live with 3 dogs, right? But when I watched that movie, I only had one, and like the whole connection, and and everybody I remember in the theater relate instantly because of having a dog, and what are some of the issues you're having when you're having a puppy and when it's growing, and at some point that it becomes like part of your family. But my point here is that like the whole connection that movie made, that at some point everybody was crying at the theater, like all of us, including me, were crying. And it's amazing how much a movie can move you, right? I mean, if it's well planned or well written at the same time.
Oh yeah, like a good story is gonna resonate with people and make people feel things, and it's just great. And the emotional connection, because I sometimes I feel depending on what the movie is, but that emotional connection, or the similar story, like if you having a dog and Marley, but having those similar experiences that we maybe not would have experienced in our own lives, but be able to live them vicariously in movies, it's just great. Or in film, or I mean in theater and stuff. It's great.
Yeah, and it's so amazing that it's so amazing, for example, that with actors in Action Conservatory, that the fact that you're kind of creating and also helping actors to know, like there's this huge kind of that there's a lot of steps that you need to take in order to have like an excellent performance. That's really cool.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm proud of it. And it's exciting to be able to take people through that, have them, empower them to do their best work. It's really fun. It's passion of mine. I mean, I'm an actor. I love to act, but I also love to teach acting. I love to help other actors. I just think I don't know, it's really fulfilling to me. It's I guess because I'm passionate about acting, I just want there to be lots of other really good actors. And so, yeah.
Now, what do you think is like the number one thing that someone should know before starting on the acting business?
The number one thing, I think it's their passion. How deep is their passion? How much do they want to know? How much do they want to do it? I think that's the thing. And then I think the next thing is how to find ways to be successful, like get good training, get good business advice, that kind of stuff. And that acting takes skill, and it takes work. It looks easy, but it's going to take work, and to be patient. And these overnights, they're not really. You have to put time into it, and so yeah, that's what I would say. Josh, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely say something similar. Yeah, what was that? I think there's a quote by Margot Robbie that was like, people say I'm an overnight sensation, but with all these years of hard work, I would not say that, like, but because it's, you put all the effort into it, and it's definitely a marathon, not a sprint, even though I know there's all these actors out there that just be like, it'd be so nice to just to get there and be there and be able to, work all the time. But it's a long process, and there's a lot of hungry people out there that want the same thing, and knowing that it's okay to fail, which I think is kind of a life lesson, really, in general, is it's okay to fail, because we learn when we do fail, or make mistakes. It's good, because then we can learn from those to be better, and and become great in whatever we're doing. And I think that's one of the hardest things. But also, like what Julianne was saying, you got to really love this stuff, because whatever job you're gonna do, there's good days and bad days. But if you really love what you're doing, then you never work a day in your life because you just love it. But knowing that you love what you're doing and in it for the long haul, because if you don't really love it, then you gotta rethink some things and consider other options. But if you really love what you're doing, then you're gonna stick with it and love it, and do all you can to get the experience and learn what you can. Yeah,
absolutely. The other day I saw this like this quote or something, which he was saying that actors don't do movies for a living, they do auditions.
Yeah, that's the job. That's really what it is. Is you audition, that's the work, that's the hours and the labor you put in, and then once you get the job, you're able to have fun, put in all of that time you put in to get there where you're at. Then you get to experiment, to play, and to use your skills to show, and you get to really have a good time and have great co-workers, or in other words, like great people you get to act with in the sets. But the work and the time that it is, the work is auditioning.
And like my last question here would be like any motivational quote, or what's your motivation that keeps you moving and working hard on your career, like both your careers, of course?
Yeah, Josh, go ahead.
Go ahead. I guess I kind of shared it before. I mean, because I have an Instagram thing that I save a bunch of quotes and different things, and I would say that it wouldn't be just one quote, but like the constant motivation and a firm belief that, like, there's as you keep putting in time and effort, that there is a goal, or there is a place to be, there's a place to go, and there's a lot of great quotes out there. I can't think of anything right now, but I think one of the last quotes I heard that really impacted me was something that Shaq said. Someone shared on a random Instagram page, but it was like him saying, like, don't people can, it's kind of just saying no to the naysayers. People will say no or try to shut you down, but it's really about putting in the time, effort, practice for you to get where you want to be. And I feel like, and you see Shaq everywhere. He's got all the commercials he does, and I feel like he's still working. Like he's still around, which is great. But being able to keep going with whatever you're doing and finding that motivation to not just give in to what people say, because there's a lot of negative people out there, but being able to have that internal positivity and saying like, no, I'm not gonna talk down to myself and let other people do it, but find that grit in yourself to keep going.
Yeah, I have a couple of quotes. One is sempre inspirata, which is Latin, roughly means stay inspired, or always stay inspired, which I think for me, I can stay inspired with stuff that keeps my passion going, that keeps me going. Well, my passion keeps that going, but that feeling of inspiration, look for things that inspire you, look for things that are gonna get you going, because this business can be it's a roller coaster. You can be up and down. Like, you got to sometimes pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And if you can find things to be inspired about, that's going to propel you forward. Like this project we're working on right now, Aesop, it's a post-apocalyptic medieval TV. Yeah, and the one I shaved my head for. And Josh is working on it with me. He's one of the plotters. And we're starting to pitch it. We're getting ready to pitch it. And it can be daunting pitching, like, how do we do it? Where do we go? That stuff. And you have to stay inspired. So what helps me with that is like this, it's such a beautiful story. It's this epic tale of, this autistic boy who's a seer. It's in 1,000 years in the future after the world's been decimated by the nuclear war. And it's very inspiring. So like staying with that, find what's inspiring to you, even, seek out experiences that will inspire you consciously. Like, what do I need to do to stay inspired? Like, also right now I'm working on my studio. I have this big studio here, like studios, and I just took on a new unit, and like, that's inspiring. It's hard work, but like knowing that I'm bringing actors together and artists together, and we're doing cool things here. We're going to start a niche band night where we have like metalcore and just like alternative bands coming and playing. We've got studio night where actors come here. We've just got so much, and like that, seeing the vision of it really keeps me inspired and keeps me going, even though I'm exhausted from working so hard, but I love it. So that's one thing, sempre inspirata. Another thing is on my email, and this is one of my favorite quotes in the world. It's, the person who says it cannot be done should not interrupt the person doing it.
Okay. Okay.
Proverb. And I think that's true. Just, go for it. Just do it. Do what you want to do, and don't listen to the naysayers.
Mm-hmm.
Love it.
Yeah. And something that was great too, what you said, Julianne, which is great about Actors in Action Conservatory, is that and it's growing all the time, but the community of actors that are there, because that's that's how I was been able to be in part of a lot of cool projects and different things, is people are connecting and willing to are confident enough to reach out to someone that's in class that they might not know very well, but to be like, hey, let's do a project together. I like what you're doing. Like, you just find really good connections and are able to create really good stuff and have a great social network there. That's not that's outside somewhere else, but it's a great community and great networking, and I've met some great people. So it's fantastic.
Well, and I think that content creation is so important right now, just for yourself, like building stuff for your reel. And you can do that now. You can shoot really cool stuff, just little snippets of it. And I encourage my students to do that, especially if they're starting out, they don't have anything for their reel. You can get together, you can write write one-page thing and shoot it really beautifully, and you can use that as a reel. And also, like Aesop, this project I'm working on, it came from class. I had an autistic boy that I was teaching, and I had this big tall guy, like a warrior, and this Spartan. I wanted to shave my head. I was like, there's a story here. So, and it's gone into this huge big thing that we're hoping to turn into a series. So you just never know what's going to happen. Just keep going with your passion.
There you go. That's inspirational over there. That's really good. Well, thank you so much for being here on the show. This is gonna be a little bit tricky because since the first video went off. I will need to check it to see if it's safe, which I think it is, and then I will download it and do like the whole process. But in the meantime, again, I have to thank you so much, guys, for being here. I mean, I really learned a lot, and let's all make sure that we follow Actors in Action Conservatory. I mean, those actors that are watching this or are listening to this or listening to this later on the podcast or watching on the YouTube channel later, make sure that you're following Actors in Action Conservatory. Also, make sure that you're following these two talented people. And again, I mean, thank you so much for giving the time here, and I look forward to see how this Actors in Action grows, and to see more actors to apply the Lichty technique, and because it's really cool. I mean, I would say that it's really awesome, and again, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dan. Yeah, this has been a great experience.
It's been really fun. Yeah. So, and we have a website, actorsinactionconservatory.com, that has videos on it too. If people want to check that out, we've got a lot of cool things on that. So
yeah, the link would be on the description. I will make sure that the link's there for the podcast and for the YouTube, so everyone can check there. And also make sure that you're following these two amazing people, and you are leaving a lot of likes here and there. Probably share some content too. And before I send you off, I need you to do it on an epic way as well. So here we go. I'm still saying that at some point I'm gonna have like live audience, and it will be like a lot.
Yeah, that'll be cool. Yeah.
But in the meantime, thank you so much, guys. Also, thank you so much for those who tune in and those who are listening to this later and watching the video later. And again, keep having an amazing rest of the day, an amazing week, and I'll see you in the next one.
okay.
Okay, thanks, Dan. Thanks
Have a
so
good
much.
one. Bye.
Bye.